Well, a very good day to you. Welcome to another interesting episode of the Candy Talk here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Evans Okinyi. Such a pleasure to have you on board. Welcome to another episode of the Candy Talk. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a while, but remember we are back here. And as we always tell you that our team is on the ground and will bring you up to date with comprehensive analysis of everything that is taking place within this country and of course abroad. We want to bring you up to date with all that information regarding current affairs and everything taking place in our country. And we do hope that these conversations, which are always mature enough and very simple, will indeed shape the kind of governance that we'll witness in Kenya. Once again, today I'm more than glad to be joined by one and only Wakili Willis Otieno. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite good.
Yes.
It's been a while since we had you on this show.
Thank you very much for hosting me again.
I'm glad to see you once again.
Yes.
Now let's get into it and let's talk about a number of issues that are actually taking place in this country. Of course, in the recent past, the Kenya Kwanza government, rather the Kenyan government, has been on the receiving end, especially from the opposition side that has actually skipped a number of attacks against the government. Of course, Raila Odinga, the leader of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, has come up with claims and has actually said that, or rather termed, the G2G deal, of course, regarding the oil between the government of Kenya, the Saudi, and of course UAE, that it was a total scam. We've seen a lot of things taking place here. The government, of course, saying very well that Raila is lying and perhaps trying to seek some sort of political mileage through this. They've actually defended themselves. But then we've also witnessed the case of the lady who actually had her consignment considered by the government there, that good worth 17 billion. I want us to begin from here. Amidst all this kind of scenario and all this taking place in the country, blame games being played here and there, and people are actually talking. What do you make of what is taking place within the oil industry and especially the energy sector in the country with regards to what has been taking place?
The bottom line of that is that it's a mess.
Okay.
To the extent that the government is unable to explain the G2G deal that it entered into. Remember, when this the G2G oil project was launched, it had two intended consequences.
Okay. And
as indicated by William Ruto himself, he said it will bring down the cost of the value of the shilling to the dollar from 132 at that time to 120 or 115. The second component of it was that it was meant to reduce the cost of our pump price of fuel. The intended objectives of G2G have failed. The dollar is now retailing comfortably at 157 Kenya shillings to $1. The pump price is now sitting comfortably at 230 Kenya shillings, save for the so-called stabilization fund that has maintained at 270. But now the pump price is 230 a litre of petrol. So the intended objectives of G2G have failed. So we start from that point.
Okay.
Then we go to the next. So what was this project that its intended objectives has failed spectacularly? And the consequence of that failure is that Kenyans are feeling more pain today than they were when the G2G oil project was conceptualized. So we go back to Baba's assertions. And we also look at Okiya Omtata's assertions.
Definitely Okiya Omtata.
And we look at the lady. And Raila has raised very important questions. He simply said, we have National Oil Corporation. If this was G2G, if this was a G2G contract, then government should have been represented by National Oil, for example.
Make me understand this. The government in this case was represented by the Ministry of Energy.
Yes.
There. Isn't that part of the government as well?
It's part of government, but if it came, for example, now to doing executing the actual importation, why didn't they do it using National Oil, which is a government parastatal, right? Fully owned by the Kenya government. So you see now other players, private players, are the ones who are coming in with the oil, the Galana oils, the Gulf oil, and I think Oryx, are the ones who are representing, so-called representing the Saudi government. Saudi government, Aramco itself, is a government-owned entity. Why not use National Oil? Because in between here, we are seeing Kenyan people being fleeced. And that is why the cost of the pump price keeps going up. So the other point that Raila is raising that we need to look at is that then bring the contract. I mean, if you're saying my truth and your truth are different, just put the contract on the table. Article 10 of the Constitution talks about accountability. Bring the contract, put it on the table. Let's look at the crude price of Platts per barrel. At one point, it was, last month, it was around $89 per barrel, Platts price. Then it came down to $86 per barrel. But as the international crude is going down, in fact, if you just search oil prices plunge, that's the main news internationally. So the international Platts price per barrel is dropping. But in Kenya, the pump price is rising. Now, it only means one thing. In between the international market and the Kenyan pump, there's a third player who is adding costs. And this cost that this third player is adding is a fleece on the people of Kenya because we are now forced to pay more. In Tanzania, when they did their fuel price, the review, it came down. Tanzania equally imports its oil. It doesn't produce any oil. How comes Tanzania, it is coming down, and Kenya, it's going up? In Tanzania, they don't have the G2G comparison. They don't have an equivalent of G2G in Tanzania. We do have an equivalent of G2G. We decided to do away with the OMCs as importers. We're now using these individual private players as so-called representing the Saudi government. That is where this cost component of our oil keeps going.
Okay, why are you talking of the so-called representatives of the Saudi government? Yet we are made to understand that these are state-owned corporations on the other side, of course, of the Saudi government and UAE as well. And in the country, of course, we've got the Ministry of Energy. That's why the president is turning it G to G. And of course, a number of questions have been asked. What is it that could be government to government to you people that you do not actually understand from this?
No. We've simply said Aramco is state-owned corporation. National Oil is state-owned here in Kenya. If you are doing a proper G2G, why not just bring Aramco with National Oil as implementing partners? Okay. Then between Kenya government and Saudi government, we have a contract. Okay. And implementing partners becoming Aramco and National Oil. Okay. In this particular case, you have Ministry of Energy Kenya signing with Aramco, not with Saudi government. And in between this signing with Aramco, they introduce private entities, the Galanas, the Gulf Oil, the Oryxes, to be the ones to bring the oil. You are seeing a total exclusion of national oil. Because if it was purely G2G, Kenya government, Saudi government are signing. Implementing partners, Aramco, National Oil. So the Aramco will release its oil to National Oil in Kenya, and National Oil will bring it, and then distribute to the other OMCs. That's not happening. We are seeing Aramco releases its oil, so-called, to the private entities. The private entities are the ones who bring it into Kenya. And what we know, which is not in dispute, once it lands into Kenya, despite the reduction of the international Platts price per barrel, in Kenya, once that oil lands, the price is shooting, it's going up. Of course, somebody is making a kill. And that's what we are saying. The objective of the project has failed. And if government wants to respond, we don't need newspaper adverts, we don't need press conferences. It's very simple. Article 10 of our Constitution talks about accountability as a principle of governance. Just put together on the table the contracts. Put together on the table the international crude for last month. Put down on the table the barrels of oil that was imported. Put on the table the freight and cost, because the whole thing ultimately boils down to what we call the freight. That is where the pricing shenanigans take place. How much are they charging us freight, and how much were they authorized to import, and how many liters did they import? Okay. And how much demurrage was charged per ship? Because that is where they add costs, which is transferred to the consumer. Okay. And also, why this thing is all because it was meant to be a perfect haste in my view. But the market responds. Why this thing is becoming an issue and is blowing up in their faces? Very simple. The weakening of the shilling.
Okay.
So, and you're paying it 6 months down the line. Because what the stock we are paying for in November is the stock of, I think, June. Is it June or May? That's the stock we are paying for. At that time, the exchange rate was 140, 142. Today, it's 156. That is what has actually now made us to fully know that there's a problem, because the business model as they had planned it, it's now responding to the market changes, and the market is exposing them. And this market is brutal. Now they must keep raising the price at the pump.
Okay.
Because, and if you want to know, I can predict for you even next month. This month is going to, it was 230, save for the stabilization. Next month, add 10 shillings, between 10 to 27 shillings on the price of fuel. It will be 240 or 257, depending on the exchange rate. Then again, you add. You just look at what was the exchange rate at the time, that time 6 months ago, and the exchange rate today.
Okay.
And you add.
Can you substantiate these claims that there could be some proxies or rather middlemen in between making a kill in this kind of deal?
I've just explained to you. It's very simple.
Okay.
We know the international crude. We know it's not. It is internationally published by OPEC. It was $89 per barrel, Platts price. It came down to $86, $85 Platts price per barrel. So it fell. But we also know the fact that in Kenya, the converse happened.
Okay.
It was 217, it went up to 230. And the Kenyan people are going to use their stabilization funds to pay the difference. Why? You can only come to a fair conclusion that in between the international market and the local market, the middleman is making a kill. And I'm telling you where the middleman is making a kill. It's in the freight.
Okay.
How much is it costing as his freight? And offloading costs. That is where the kill is being made.
Okay.
Because barring that, remember, barring that, the price in the national market should be transferred straight. Because the only difference now comes in the freight. Should be transferred straight to the consumer, based on how much government is charging as import duty, how much we are charging as fuel levy, how much we are charging as EPRA levy, how much we are charging as Railroad Development Fund. They are all known. Those components of tax, we all know them. So ideally, you can calculate the price of your fuel and predict it, even without government.
Even without government.
The only part you cannot predict is the freight.
Okay. Now, let's get here. Tell me, what do you make of Njeri Njoroge's claims that the oil in question here definitely is hers, the oil worth 17 billion, and she actually insists that the government should give her back her consignment. In this case and scenario, a lot of people have cast doubts over the ownership of this particular consignment, and they're saying that it could be perhaps possible, quote unquote, that she may be somebody is being used by other people. What do you make of her statement?
You know, I'm persuaded by what Senator Kia Mtata says, that she must be the private enterprise that received the 17 billion stabilization fund. So it's possible that she was a front of some people in government. It is not in dispute, and she has said it publicly herself, that she met with the CS of energy. So can the CS in rebuttal tell us the nature of the when they had the meeting, the nature of the meeting, the kind of conversations they had? And of interest, you're finding that it is now the CS disowning and the KPA responding to Njeri. But who is the owner of this fuel that Njeri is claiming? Why can't the owners come out and say, hey, look here, this is the fuel, we are the ones who bought it, this is our invoice, this is our bill of lading, this is our offloading documents, this is how we offloaded it into KPC, and these are the documents.
But of course,
these are the payments we made to our partners in Aramco, right? It's about accountability. She's come out and she's making all the noise that you want. She's affirming to you that she's been meeting with our senior government officials to discuss these things. Can't the owner or government, for that matter, just bring down all the information, right? And then explain to us the nature of relationship that its senior officers have with Anjeri, because it seems she was a front for somebody, and maybe somewhere along the way, she was cut out, so she's crying for attention. As I had one commentator say that her face doesn't look like a billionaire, obviously.
And of course, I heard her say that how does the face of a billionaire look like? I had to ask such kind of question.
You can see one. You can tell a billionaire, someone who money understands. It shows on their faces. But that's on a light note. But of import is this: she's making so many allegations. She's not based on a prior existence. She's not able to demonstrate that kind of a business relation engagement on her own. But she's also demonstrating to you engagement at very high ministerial level with the sector leaders, right? Then it's onerous that the sector leaders come out and debunk. But as it is, she must just be a front for someone. There's a face behind the face. She's just meant to publicly distract us from the real things that are happening, the shenanigans that are happening in that ministry.
The Energy CS already attributed the ownership of that particular oil to one of the companies in the country, or one of the oil dealing companies here. A company which has not also come out clearly and said that the oil actually belongs to them. And here we are, the Prime Minister has actually, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has actually called for the resignation of the Energy CS, as well as the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Treasury, that is Davis Chirchir and Njuguna Ndung'u, respectively, therein. Now, I have two questions here. Do you think some sort of games are being played here? And is the former Prime Minister in order to call for the resignation of the Energy CS as well as the CS Treasury, when these things have not even been substantiated and we are not aware of whether they actually participated in the so-called malpractice here?
You know, when if the kitchen gets hot, you get out of the kitchen if you can't handle the heat. Don't wait for the kitchen to burn to get out. Now, as it is, the energy sector, and in particular, the issue of fuel in this country is a mess. So Prime Minister Raila Odinga is well in order to demand that Chirchir should vacate office, because they are hallowed projects. And if you recall, President Ruto stood up when he was launching the G2G, and he singularly mentioned 3 people for special recognition, and he said, future generations will forever be indebted to them. My CS, Davis Chirchir, my economic advisor, David Ndi, and the young man from EPRA, for coming up with this very brilliant idea called G2G, and ensuring that it is passed. And the full implementation of this project that these 3 brilliant gentlemen have come up with, our dollar will be the dollar will be retailing at 120 or even 115. That time it was 132. The pump price of fuel will come down. None of those two has happened. So just prima facie, even before you go now to the details of the mess, why it has failed. David Chirchir, David Ndi, the young man from EPRA, to the extent that the opposite of what the president hallowed to be a game changer to this country failed, they should take the immediate responsibility. So they first resign. Then the second component, we go now into what was the mess? Why did it fail so spectacularly? Now that is the mess we are talking about. And as Prime Minister Odinga says, we should now be heading towards prosecution.
Okay.
It should be prosecution. We should not just say they resign and it ends there. This mess that has caused Kenyans pain, because when you are talking about economic pain to the people, the consequences of it is that individuals are at risk of losing their lives. People are losing their livelihoods. And economic pain is not something you say will feel pain today and next year we'll feel better. In between the pain and next year, there are life and death consequences.
Okay.
And people actually die. So an economic saboteur, like for me, these economic saboteurs, you don't have to wait for someone to die to say the right to life has been infringed. No. When there's a threat to that existence itself, that becomes a violation of the right to life.
Okay.
They have violated our rights to socio-economic development, and they violated our rights to life. To the extent that they forced us through an economic program that has led to unachievable costs of fuel in terms that we've never seen before. Even in his worst of years, Uhuru Kenyatta with his failures, fuel never crossed the 200 shillings mark. Here, we are now comfortably looking towards hitting 300 Kenya shillings per litre of fuel. Do you reward such a person? Or do you wait for substantiation? That person belongs to the gallows immediately. Don't have to wait.
Okay, now, where do you think this actually leaves now, the government of the day? Because here we are, Kenyans are still grappling with the high cost of living. The high cost of fuel is still here with us. And all these things are taking place. And what we are actually witnessing from those in the government is self-defense and all these mechanisms being used. Now, what's the way forward as a country now?
The way forward as a country, as I always said, we must sit down and identify. When did the rain start beating us? And what is the main problem?
Okay.
When you see government raising the cost of services and fees every day, because what I assure you, going forward, anybody paying for anything to our government, the fee or the charge will go up. That is guaranteed. Into the foreseeable future with Kenya Kwanza, the price of everything is going up. It's an upward trajectory. Why are we in that situation? And as a Sabina party, we've always said, we're in that situation because these Kenya Kwanza people are trying to run away from the debt problem. They are still borrowing more from the domestic market. They are still borrowing more internationally. We are in a debt trap. The sooner Kenyans are told that this country is in a debt trap and is staring at a debt default, let's deal with the debt monster. So the appetite to borrow, the appetite to raise fees and charges is that government, whatever is collecting, 70% of it minimum goes to debt finance.
Okay.
They are only left with 30%, of which 30%, they need to provide the services, pay salaries, operational and maintenance, give counties money. The 30% is not enough. So government departments and agencies are being encouraged, raise your fees, raise own revenues. We need more appropriation in aid. We need more tax revenue. So it's an upward trajectory because of this pressure of debt. But if you confronted the debt question properly, open up the debt books, what is legitimate debt, what is odious, and you make the painful decision in the debt books. If there be a debt in our debt book that was taken without the authorization of Parliament, remove it. Don't pay for it. If there be a debt in the debt books that was taken for recurrent expenditure, not for development expenditure, remove it. We are not paying for it. If there be a debt that was taken and didn't end up in Kenya, what the Control of Budget was saying last week, that we were paying commission fees for debts which we never took, remove it. So you clean the debt book and you declare those debts to be odious debts. And then you ask, of the legal debts, how much have we paid in the last 10 years? Based on our forensic audit, we paid 5.4 trillion. Approved by our parliament was 4.2 trillion. So we've actually overpaid our debt by 1.2 trillion if we were to strictly follow the law. Now, you deal with that as a country. The first thing you do is this. You are debt-free. So while you have 30 shillings or 30% to run your government, now you have 100% of your own revenue to run your government.
Okay.
You don't now have the appetite or the desire to increase your charges and fees and your taxes.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was a good conversation here with Wakili Willis Otieno, definitely looking at a number of issues that are taking place in the country with regards to the kind of oil, kind of politics that we're witnessing currently. Tell us what you think about what is going on in the country with regards to the energy sector. You can weigh in on this conversation. And please, if at all you're watching us for the first time, please kindly do subscribe to this channel and stay tuned to some of our programs that will be coming up. Of course, Richard Mwinje is always here, as well as Jadiel Kabiro will be bringing you up to date with comprehensive analysis of everything taking place in the country and abroad. Till we have this conversation again, have yourself a lovely day. My name is Evans Okinyi.